Okay, my name is Jacob Lotz, and this is my Math 180 final presentation. The summarization of my content, and then also the resources that I used. In this course, we did learn a lot about the math side of these topics, but we were asked to apply them more of a business strategy and how to use them in the real world, because we won't be memorizing equations and formulas while we're working in the business world. We're going to be having to apply the stuff that we learned and how can we maximize profit, basically. So in this Math 180 course, we covered a lot of main topics such as limits, derivatives, and the applications of those derivatives, and then explaining that more thoroughly. Limits help us understand behavior near important points, like when cost approaches a minimum or a profit levels off as production increases. They help people understand the business world a little bit better. And then in business, derivatives represent marginal values, marginal costs, and marginal profit. This is what tells companies how much an additional unit of production will cost or earn. They also show how fast something can change and overall help businesses make decisions at the exact point where profit is the highest and cost is the lowest. Basically saying like how much money can you make with spending the littlest most amount of money. And then for someone who's taking this class in the future, I would say it's not like a normal math class where you're just memorizing problems and equations and formulas repeatedly, beating it into your head, and then at the end of that unit, you take a big test on that material that you just learned. That's how a lot of my classes were in high school, and like all my friends that I talked to about this class that's how their classes were in high school. And when I explained this course to them, they're like, wow, that's really interesting. Like my math class I'm taking right now is just, memorizing formulas and then just taking a test on what I just learned, which I think is a really poor way of learning, because you're not going to be doing that, when you're older. Like I said before, like you're going to be applying the stuff that you're learning, not just memorizing it. You actually are going to use this stuff, apply it, and be able to work because of it. And I think that when I was in high school, at least, I hated learning that way. So having this be the way I learn now is a lot better for me, I think. And I was also always under the impression that I was never going to use the stuff I learned in high school, which that's true. Once you learn it, you never use it again. So it's just pointless. So when I have a job, obviously I'm going to be using this stuff more than what I did in high school, which I like. That's why I like this course better. And then also this course gave me a really good and a really different outlook on how math classes should be taught. So that's why I think that for future students that you're going to really enjoy this class more than your other math classes. And as far as the resources I used, this course does offer quite a few resources that can help you out when you're having trouble, because it is a pretty hard class, because learning how to apply stuff, when someone's never done that, it is tricky. But there are 4 in-class professors and instructors, and they're all very well versed in math and have good insight on everything we cover in this course. The main resource I used was Dr. Luke. He was the instructor of the course and was a very reliable person to email, always got back quick, and wasn't afraid of being personable as a professor and not just telling you what to do. He also liked to get to know his students and just help them out whenever they needed help. A personal experience I had with him was the first week of school, I accidentally got dropped from this class, the course, and I had to email him right away because, I wasn't going to be a full-time student anymore if I didn't get back in the class. Well, he was very lenient with me, helped me out, emailed some other people to let me back in the course, which helped me out a lot. But then also raises the question, what did you do for your assignments? Well, he was also very lenient about me telling him, hey, I need to get these assignments in, but they're late right now. Is there any chance I can get, more time on them? He's like, no problem, I can do that for you, and gave me a grace period. So I was very thankful for that. So overall, the resources are very, very good, and I would encourage to use them. And my lab reflection, what I most liked about my lab was that's very easy to navigate and gave very clear instructions, such as or how many questions are each assignment, and then how many parts to each question there were. I also liked how much time that was given to complete the assigned work. An example of this was just, you'd be given 3 or 4 assignments to complete throughout a week or 10-ish days time period. And I felt like that was a very fair amount of time to get the work done and turned in, because, you live a busy life, you should be given, they all take around 30 to 45 minutes. So that's around, 2-3 hours of work. So, having 10 days to do it's really, really nice. What I didn't like about my lab is that there were some assignments that were assigned earlier in the semester where we just did not go over that material. So it was very hard to do the assignments and do a good job on them and do quality work because we just never went over that material. I do think it gave me a better understanding on how the equations worked and tied back into how the class was supposed to be and how they were applied to real world problems. My lab did a good job giving me like more practice for these equations outside just the class lectures. I don't think it is necessary for the homework to include algebra practice. That was one of the questions I was asked. I don't think it is because coming into this class, you should have a good understanding on how algebra works because it is a calculus class. So algebra is like the base root of calculus. So if you should have a good understanding going in. So I don't think my lab should have that much algebra practice in it. For OneNote, the in-class assignments and practice, I think it was organized really well and easy to navigate as like a classwork tool. But some things I would have benefited more. It would have benefited me more is if there was more clarified instructions on what to do instead of just kind of being like thrown into the assignment saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Ask questions if you need help. I wish we kind of did like before we were assigned it, went over what we were doing, and then people could ask questions before it was assigned so we had a better idea. And then once we were assigned, we were like, oh, this looks familiar. We just went over this. Now it's easier for me to get it done. That's what I wish would have happened, but that's one thing I would change about the OneNote in-class assignments. My main concern and also then other improvements I would have is my main concern is a better way to make students more comfortable with the idea that there is one more than one answer. Could just be to tell them, we're not looking for the exact same wording of these problems, but we still want to see the math done right. Basically saying like in the math world, the end answer is the right answer. Obviously, show your work, how you got that answer. But in the business world, you can explain that answer 100 different ways and apply it 100 different ways. So like telling a kid that is like, oh, that's always been told, and there's only one right answer in math. It's x equals 1. That's not true. Like obviously the answer is 1 at the end of the day, but explaining that in the business world, you can explain it 100 different ways. That's why I really like this class. But an easy way to do this to a kid that doesn't think that's how math works is just putting it into the syllabus and then going over that in the syllabus week. I know firsthand that when I went into this course thinking, I was like, okay, this is gonna be like calculus hard, like memorizing all this stuff and then taking tests on it, but it's not. You're applying it to the real business world. So I would just say, put in the syllabus and make it a lot easier for the kids to understand in the future that, hey, this class, there is more than one answer that you can explain, but you still do need to get the math right and show your work. And some improvements I would suggest in the future, I would just say more organized OneNote daily warm-up exercises. There were some instances where we would have a class and nothing to do because there just wasn't anything on OneNote. And then as well as just, more clear instructions during OneNote assignments, like I said before. But other than that, though, I don't really have many complaints about the course. I thought it was done pretty well. The professors and the instructors were really helpful. And I feel like everybody got a good understanding on what to do in the world of business and how to apply the stuff that we learned.